Hello, everyone, and welcome to this broadcast. I'm so happy that you all tuned in today. We are diving into a topic that I think a lot of organizations are wrestling at the moment, which is how do we make Copilot part of how our organization works? We're not just talking a small pilot or a little handful of enthusiastic early adopters, but really embedding it into our behavior and the way we work. And to do that, I have two fantastic guest speakers with me today. I have you, Oliver, Service Owner of M365 at Carlsberg.
Yes.
And you, Andreas, Chief Solutions Officer at Open. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We want to explore today not the technical rollout of Copilot per se, but more the human rollout. And AI at scale really isn't a tooling challenge. It's not handing someone a new tool and say, go do. It's about changing behaviors. It's about changing habits, building confidence. And that is what we want to dive into today, among a few other things as well. Throughout this session, please feel free to drop any questions that you might have in the chat. Also, if you have any reflections or thoughts that pop into your head, this is a really interesting topic in my opinion, and I'm so keen to hear what you guys think. Before we dive in, the suspense is killing me, but I am just going to introduce Open to anyone who isn't familiar with our work. We are a change agency. And that means that we focus on the people side of organizational change. We help large organizations navigate things like digital adoption, cultural shifts, strategic transformations. And we do that by turning complexity into communications that employees can understand, but also act upon. We work across strategy and creative execution, and we partner closely with executive teams to ensure that change isn't just launched, it is anchored in the organization. And before we continue, one last thing I want to say, a massive thank you to our partners at Fellowmind for hosting us in their studio and on their platform today. We are so happy that you guys wanted to have us here today, and we look forward to more sessions like this in the future.
Yes.
I think we're ready to get into it now.
Let's get going.
Let's get going. I
Yes.
want to just start with you, Andreas, and I am going to ask you to do this briefly, but we have this slide that gives us an overview of the project. And so if you can just quickly set the scene, what is it that we're talking about? What type of project is this?
Well, in its essence, it's a Copilot adoption project for Carlsberg. We've been engaging with Carlsberg for many years, and when it sort of cut on the drawing board that there should happen something with Copilot, we started working with you and the team in about September, scaling up from approximately 500 licenses to 3,000 licenses, I believe, in total. And as you can see on the screen, there's a heap of activities that's been happening throughout. And through this session, I think we'll dive into some of the activities. But this is just a short sneak peek of the timeline.
Great. Okay. Well, my first question is going to be to you, Oliver.
Thanks.
And I want to ask you, if you look back before this project started, what did things look like in Carlsberg on the Copilot AI side?
Good question. I would say how it looked in Carlsberg before summer last year. It was 500 licenses sitting in Carlsberg. We did some great stuff. There was a high demand, but I think we also we reached that point where we needed to have some structured measuring how we actually saw Copilot inside Carlsberg. So it was a point where we needed to also have some more licenses inside Carlsberg, but it was also a time where people were seeing, okay, there is actually a trust inside Copilot at the moment. The adoption rate for those 500 people were sky high. All were using the license. But it was also a time where we saw a potential to get this out of IT, get it out where actually the people are. Not that people inside IT is not a people's, but
Love
actually,
IT.
but it actually, we saw that potential to get P&C, HR onboarded really early. We saw potential in seeing the business professional to actually have this built in their culture and saw it as a huge potential in that area.
So, thinking back again, what were you trying to achieve when you set out? Why was a small pilot not enough?
Yeah, I think again it was about actually learning the people well, learning our great colleagues from different functions, from different markets. We have, I think, 40 plus markets outside of Denmark. Learning those people to know really, really well. So it was about actually getting almost on the streets to learn the people, to learn from their knowledge, to learn from their professionalism in their different function. So instead of just having a pilot, 500 people, we were actually seeing a potential in bringing this out into Carlsberg, into all our colleagues.
And maybe just to add, when we started this project in September, we had a kickoff session, a kickoff workshop with you and some of from your team.
Yes.
And we sort of thought on two tracks. What is it that we want to achieve with Copilot in Carlsberg? One thing is AI out of IT, as we talked about. The whole point of, it started as a pilot driven by IT, but the other part is how do we move beyond this pilot and go into what happens when it reaches the organization. So sort of a people-first approach. That's the one part. And then there's also a great need. We got challenged, I'd say, even on what can we measure, and that was senior leadership saying, what can we measure here? How do we prove the value of Copilot if we invest into it? So that was a little bit more of the business track. So we worked on these two tracks, and I think we'll also give some examples today on how do we execute on these two things to make sure we at the end succeeded with this.
So it's the human side of the digital transformation that makes a difference.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, so Andreas, when companies treat Copilot as something that must move out of just IT across the organization, what do they typically understand that other companies don't? What is it that they have recognized?
I think so. In all its essence, Copilot is a feature within the M365 universe, right? But it's also so much more because it's also the foundation for generative AI in many organizations. So I think when it's treated as a tool, as a piece of software in IT, there's a risk that it doesn't reach the organization, that it doesn't really get the effect that it can have for the organization. But that's also something that we've been talking about is how do we as IT succeed with this? Well, we do it by integrating into culture, thinking about new ways of working, thinking about agents, all these types of things. And it's not driven by IT, it's IT enabling the organization to actually bring this to life. And I think when that happens, that's a bit of magic there. Yeah,
and I also think that was some of the greatest learning we saw, let's say, compared for before summer last year to after summer. So just when we had those, we have several training sessions with different kind of functions, different kind of people. When we started talking about it as a way of working, to compare to a tool that is almost sitting beside or in the corner, that was where we saw the sparkles in people's eyes. To instead of searching for documents inside Outlook, when people know Outlook search is pretty awful, starting those kind of small habits using Copilot for that, let's say actions. That's where I think people were getting hands on it. I would say.
So just me being curious, when you guys say AI out of IT, it sounds pretty, it sounds catchy, but what does that actually look like? What does that mean? How do you do that?
Should I go first?
Yes, please.
So I think the main point here is not to take AI as a responsibility away from IT, because I think that's an emphasis on that. It's still IT's responsibility to drive the solution. But it's sort of a two-way catchphrase, right? Because the other part, AI out of IT, also means that we need the organization to take responsibility for learning AI. And I think that's one of the key issues here. And if IT sort of fuels that, journey, progress, That's really where it happens, because then IT becomes an enabler for AI in the business, but still obviously owning the solution as a software.
Yeah, exactly, and I would say that Copilot must have been the best glue, so to say, in a tech world for knowing people better inside the organization. I learned people from different kind of functions that I haven't ever met before because of this tool, because it kind of combine, how we are working in a way. So this is not, in Carlsberg, we are not looking at this as a, let's say, large IT project we need to drive and stuff. It's actually about activating the great people we have in the great different functions to almost own that. So we're also seeing today, we're having a department, P&C or HR, actually have ownership of their own learning. And then we are almost just the, let's say, the trainers in a way. So they're actually owning the agenda in their own group and or function. And that's where I really see that I haven't seen that before. Been working in tech, it's that ownership, and that's a culture shift we tried to enable last year, and it's starting to get the benefit out of it right now. So that's really great.
Andreas, what do you think characterizes an organization that builds lasting habits with AI?
How long do we have?
Not that long.
All right, I'll do it really short. I'll try to do it really short. I think building new habits is a fundamental thing in many organizations, right? So if you roll out a new strategy, you need to build habits on that. If you integrate a new culture or buy a new company, you have to build habits upon the changes. It's always been a thing when rolling out software platforms that you need to build habits. If you do business critical software, it's very, very important to build those habits, because either you lose, you might lose the bottom line effect of it. But with AI, it's sort of a fluffy thing, or generative AI, because does it create business impact or does it create cultural shift? And those are sort of battling a little bit between each other. So I think building lasting habits with this for an organization is when they start looking a little bit into the future. So it's maybe not right now, but it might be in a few months or a year from now. So they're already starting to build these habits because we know that generative AI is going to be a business critical thing. Maybe not right now, but down the line. So starting now is a good thing, because the learning curve is quite steep, meaning if you start in a year, you're going to still have so much more of an effort to actually, build those habits. So it's about sort of caring about your employees and saying, all right, let's start in the small, do the Carlsberg, right? And then we'll see this effect over time.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, I think it's really important caring about people, because it is everywhere. You can't, open any newspaper or any LinkedIn anywhere. It is everywhere. So I think what we also have almost settled down in Carlsberg, from my perspective, is that we are really honest in this era. We're really honest saying, let's say there's a question, can it do as an action around this? If it's not, mature yet, we are really honest in our, let's say, communication. We are honest in our training. It's not live yet. No, we're actually not saying live yet. We are not saying it's not live. It's not a tool or a feature right now. So we are really looking at how it's looking today. We are not overselling anything. We are really honest in our communication with our people. And I think that's, collaboration with our really great colleagues is a really strong collaboration. We're not over-promising stuff. And that's where, when I, let's say, turn on the newspaper, or not turn on, but read the newspaper, where I see some stuff maybe will be over, let's say, promising stuff. But be really honest inside with your colleagues, because that's where you get something out of it, I think.
Okay.
Be honest.
I think we've sort of set the scene now for this project. This is sort of the overall general stuff. I want to get into agents and innovation challenges, because I know there's been quite a bit of this in this project. And I want to ask you, Oliver, what was the first experiment or challenge you guys did where you thought, okay, now something is happening?
Yeah, and when talking about agents, from my perspective, I'm a part of the digital workplace team, and really looking at the peoples, looking at my colleagues. But I think when I saw people coming from different functions, coming up with almost spark in their eyes or super overwhelmed because they have created an agent for those three colleagues, and it could be super simple, looking at one SharePoint page, or SharePoint site, looking at contracts and stuff like that. That's where I saw, okay, we have a huge potential here, and we have people that are actually super innovative in a way I haven't seen before in this era.
Do you have a concrete example of an agent that's been built, and sort of what problem did it solve?
Yeah, sure. We have several, and I think we're sitting on 2,500 agents at the moment. Of course, not everyone is active, but it's again around how the culture is at the moment. I think it's great. But some of the stuff we have seen with especially the salespeople is when they are having to look through several contracts, both the legal stuff, the economy in some contracts, to actually combine this, and then they can go out to their customer to be even more prepared. They can be prepared before going out to the customer, but they can also be prepared inside their car or where they are actually getting those sales pitches. So having this synergy around their data in a format they actually can use in a great manner, and that's where I see some potential, because I'm not, from my point of view, I'm not looking at those greater, larger IT project where we also have a great track inside Carlsberg. But I'm looking more at people, and that's where I see some spark in people's eyes when they have actually opportunity to create their own agents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these salespeople, just out of interest, did they build that themselves, or was that handed to them?
Completely themselves. I think, of course, we have some great sparring sessions with people when they have some ideas, but 85% maybe of all agents is from people's own, and it could be down to creating some culture around their meetings, an agent that actually could capture several stuff to larger ideas on a 50 people level in supply chain and stuff like that. But it's really interesting to see people actually popping up with those, because we could also have turned off the possibility around creating agents. But I think we see the beneficial about having the innovative minds inside now. And it is part of our training. It's not the first session when doing, let's say, function-based training, but it's maybe on the second or third step in different kind of training sessions. So most of the time, it's actually people themselves finding those great ideas and turn it into an agent, and I think it's super.
It sounds fun and energetic.
It is super energetic.
And I think it was part of sort of when we did the focus areas, let's call them that, when we did when we started out the project, is let's take a mindset of exploration and innovation. And as you mentioned, there's these organizational agents or being built on a large scale, but where the magic happens is when we move that culture into, let's try it myself, let's explore, let me figure out how I can do this. And I think also for the viewers here is that if you're sitting in that sort of position, it's really where you see the transition from, oh, this is something that comes from the organization, to this is something I must own as a person, right? And I think that's really, that's the sparkle in the eyes, right? It's okay, can I actually figure this out myself? It's a no code, it's a low code. I can just try to experiment with it and see what happens.
Exactly.
And I think that's really what we've also succeeded with. And we also have some data that shows that a lot of these new users are already exploring agents.
Completely.
How did you guys motivate people to tap into this?
Yeah, and it's a super good question. You can, let's say, really transparent. You can work from home in my, let's say, position every day in Carlsberg. That's fine. I haven't had a homework day for 2 years. It's actually about learning people to know. And you can learn so many great people. We have, let's say, science people working with yeast, and we have brand managers from Size 6064. So we have all different kind of great brains, so to say, and it's about learning those people. And there's no function that is, left out in this agenda. It can be, those people that are almost sitting down below, the tax people, maybe stepping on some people, but those people are so great in this area because they have a long education in their specific area. And if you can give them the sparkle in their eyes and the momentum in terms of creating some stuff or just using this stuff, that is where it gets really exciting.
Yeah.
And that's where you see people are benefit about this.
But I also think, so as you mentioned here, there's also some of the sort of traditional adoption tools that you can apply to change that mindset, to create these new ways of working.
Yeah.
So we build a very strong narrative around Copilot.
True.
What is it, the purpose of Copilot in Carlsberg? We built or expanded a community, and we started working with champions.
Yeah.
So all these things, these little bit, small tools, small levers to actually create this change that was needed for the guy or girl in finance thinking, okay, I can actually build my own agent. I'll try this out, right? And I think, so it's like small nudges, micro actions, micro thinking, small learning, being part of community. All these small things creates these steps towards somebody who then, just jumps into it and starts doing it themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And I also normally say that being cheeky is also a really good way of doing this stuff because there's you can actually go directly to really really senior people and to ask them about, do you want almost a one-on-one session, because it's about just getting this out and running. And it's not about having this as an IT tool. It's about activating the great colleagues you have in different departments, different functions. And being cheeky in this area is, from my perspective, is great because there is no people that should be left out in this.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear from you guys how this project is so human-centric, and also I'm taking away that you must do little things, but continuously, consistently, to not overwhelm people, not oversell, but really get them on board, motivate them.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So what surprised you most when you started involving everyone in this?
I think, from my perspective, working with tech for, let's say, 10 plus years, is actually this accessibility. I'm not here from Microsoft, but I think the accessibility from people to almost after one training session, after 1.5 hours, to get started the day after, or actually the same day, almost in the same room, having the session, just been sitting to try stuff out. I think that's what surprised me in a good way. And then again, like mentioned, the glue between functions and the glue between our markets, where sometimes it has been, markets doing their own stuff. It's been just, almost thrown down.
Yeah.
And there's almost not a highway into different markets, but that's not what I'm saying. But we're having such a great way in to learn people, but also to combine, let's say, different kind of knowledge, because we are having those amount of markets in different countries, and they are mainly sitting on this, let's say, the same functions, the same way of working, but combining them in a way this tool is actually making. I think that's great, and that's where we get those rid of.
Yeah, we've seen great examples of cross collaboration, basically, as you're saying, right? So going from a little bit a mindset where this is my work, I'll do this, to okay, Copilot can actually enable us working across different areas, and again, it's back to exploration and innovation and being curious. I think it's just how can we do things differently, and that's that's been a quite a journey also with Carlsberg for you.
Completely.
If any of the viewers out there are right now in a place where they're starting to dabble into agents a little bit, what is important to get right from the get-go?
It wasn't a technical broadcast, this one, right? But
Please no.
No, exactly, because there is, of course, the government side of it. But do you have a take on it, Andreas?
I think we've experienced both. I'll try to set the scene sort of for the two tracks. So one is we see agents being pushed towards people, but they might not be super relevant, or they're not in a state where they feel comfortable using it, or there's a lot of well, there's not a lot, but there's quite a bit of change resistance to all these changes happening. And agents is another change. First we had to learn ChatGPT, then came Copilot, then now agents, all within the span of a year and change.
Yeah.
So I think the point here is, if you start asking people, Oliver, what is, you do great work and you're an expert on your job.
Yes.
What is the work processes that you do? And, sort of get that perspective from you. And then as experts, we can come and say, all right, so you're saying this, well, maybe an agent can solve X, Y, Z.
Exactly.
And that's one of the things that's really sort of the big difference between pushing agents or building or co-creating agents with employees. So I think that's a key difference.
Yeah.
What do you think is the difference between an agent that lives on and an agent that dies?
Well, I just said it. No, I think, again, it's about relevance, right? So let's be frank, sometimes agents dies because they've been in the experiment, right? So maybe you create something that's not completely your intention, and then it sort of dies out. But back to what I said before is that I think if you create agents together with people that are experts at their job, there is a much higher chance that they live on. And then obviously it's about also governance, promotion of the agents. You and I have talked even about sort of an agent marketplace and things like that. So there's also some tools, communication tools, some change tools you can use to promote agents for people.
Yeah, exactly. And I think those agents that is not, let's say, active any longer, I just see them as, great steps towards, greater agents. So we are not, pointing fingers at people saying why is this not active yet, active any longer. It's actually about people getting hands on it and then find out those great results that it might have in a longer term.
So the goal of people building agents isn't only to have agents that live on, but also actually just getting them to work with it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
And maybe can I add, sort of really shortly, is that I think Carlsberg is at a stage where innovation and exploration is the key topic, right? So it's okay just to explore. It's okay that agents might not live on forever.
Yes.
At some point, you might change the strategy and say, all right, now we need a little bit more sustainable governance in this, and then we start building agents that has a longer impact. But to the viewers, it's about just getting going and trying it out and getting people curious about the whole thing.
Yeah, and any kind of different functions, actually.
Yeah.
It's not about having this as a, let's say, a marketing thing. It's actually about creating a culture shift towards any kind of functions, from my perspective, or from our perspective.
Okay, I want to now move on to our next theme of today, which is going to be about accessibility, inclusion, and new work habits. And I want to start off with you, Oliver.
Yes.
I want to ask you, where have you seen Copilot make a difference for people with different working styles or accessibility needs?
Great question. And I think that's where tech came in as a way. That's when I knew that tech was the right place for me.
Yeah.
Because we have seen people, especially in UK, where we provided them with a license with different kind of diverse disabilities. For example, the dyslexia, turning them, let's say, a half a meter larger because they're now able to participate in meetings. Some people are let's say, deep thinker. So the question the topic might go in for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But the thing they now can do, asking questions in meetings or after meetings, it's where I think the most important stuff is actually happening. And I would love, and that's on our agenda, to have Carlsberg as a company to actually embrace all these kind of people, because we have seen people that are, those great deep thinking people, and I have had sessions with those people. You can just see that this tool, which we are not calling it in Carlsberg, but this way of working is actually, the accelerator in their own personal both development, but just how they work in Carlsberg.
Yeah.
So this is by far the most, let's say, heartwarming. Not a side effect, but just how we are actually seeing this as well inside Carlsberg, to have those people onboarded in the license, of course.
Have you noticed any new habits being formed around this whole Copilot initiative?
Yeah, definitely. And back to, again, the cross collaboration. That if that was a question, sorry. Yeah, I think that's where I really, also think it's nice to be in this company, to seeing people from different functions sitting together, working in this. And that's where I also get energy about it, because we can almost point at different functions sitting together, working in building an agent or just building a way of working in groups, because this is not about having this again as an IT project. It's actually how we are entering our job every morning, to have it a little bit more. It should be funnier to go to work, and that's really part of it, this project.
Yeah.
And it's not saying Copilot every time, but it's just, this is a great tool to use.
Yeah. Andreas, how do you ensure that Copilot becomes a tool for everyone and not just very tech-savvy people like the two of you?
Well, thank you. I think endorsement from leadership is a must. And I've seen in Carlsberg also that endorsement. We've really seen an active leadership promoting this, especially P&C, but also AI leaders. And I think that is something that is a must, I'd say, because change always needs approval from somebody above you, right?
Definitely.
And if you see a lot of change in your organization, you look to your leader to see, is this okay? How much time can I spend on being better? That's a key thing. Curiosity is a key thing. And curiosity we can fuel by building communities, creating champions, communicating about the things, having someone like Oliver run around in the organization and do great work, doing workshops and stuff like that. And maybe, Oliver, I know there's an example of a workshop with marketing that was, I believe, great energy, because they started thinking about how can we optimize our work. So maybe you can give that example. That would be
that's
great.
a really good example, because we are going to almost have that as a kind of blueprint to what we are going to do with different other functions. But it's actually to combine all people from, this was a Carlsberg Denmark marketing. 3-hour session where they were sitting together, maybe discussing which kind of workflows or how topics and stuff, which they could as a team maybe combine in an agent. And in those 3 hours, the energy was sky high, and they have a vote in the end to go through those 3 examples that won actually kind of the competition to go further with. And I think that's kind of going to be a blueprint to what we are going to with different kind of functions. Because that time being sitting all together 3 hours was of course an investment, but also especially again from senior leaders, but it was just great, and you can actually get started in a really, really great way.
And I think that's an example of people who are not techie per definition, but has an energy in how can we do things better. And then it's people like us that then can say, all right, based on what you're saying, we can do X, Y, Z. Let me teach you. And I think that is what I've seen. Also, I've been in this, industry for quite a while. So I think seeing that participation or collaboration between IT and the business is something that is also a new thing, a newer thing, even with AI.
You mentioned leaders before, leadership endorsement. What is something that leaders should do starting today to be good role models?
Walk the talk. I can say that very, very shortly, but it is, we've seen a lot of AI hype talking about AI, but many leaders does not actually know the ramifications or implications of what this means. So learning to use it yourself, and I think back to Carlsberg, we saw some great numbers. We actually tracked on senior leaders saying they saved up to 3 hours a week using Copilot. So creating those habits yourself as a leader and then promoting, if I can do it, you can do it. And here's how, right?
Yeah.
And then let's say maybe more low-hanging thing is actually to have inside your company or to have one-on-one session with senior leaders to get them, let's say, just onboarded to how the saying is, how we are talking about, for example, Copilot inside your company, because oftenly maybe sometimes they don't have time to actually to stick down, let's put their fingers down in the nest and to have a one-on-one session to learn those great people, great senior leaders. That's also really good findings for us.
Yeah. And that's walking the talk, right? Once you learn and having that one-on-one session, then you feel prepared as a senior leader to go out and say, all right, I can do this. Let me help you, or let me show you how to do it.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's take a look at these numbers that you referred to before. We've brought some of them today. They're stunning. And I want to hear both of you highlight something from this that makes you surprised, proud, whatever it might be.
I think you had a good point, Andreas, about, and we had actually kind of a little bit of a discussion about should we talk about this length of use equal time saved. And normally you would maybe, yes, that is, let's say, naturally that how long you're using it, that's equal how much time saved. But we were actually also in this time span period seeing a huge chunk of new people getting on to the license. So we were actually maybe seeing, we were thinking about there should have been a dip in that time span, but it was actually still going really well. So I think we could actually see a potential still that we should just expand people.
So sometimes when you do adoption on different kinds of software, there's a terminology called avoid the dip. So there's a hype factor when you roll something out and then everybody uses it and then they think, it's not for me, or always you go back to old ways of working, or you come back from vacation and you forgot about your training and things like that. But there's quite the opposite with Copilot in Carlsberg. We actually see, as you mentioned, is that what we're seeing is that people are using it more and more and more. So as they become or feel more proficient in the use, they explore themselves back to building their own agents and all that. And I think that's really one of the key differences is that we have an opportunity to avoid this dip and instill new ways of working for the employees.
And then just pretty quickly is that we are seeing 7.9 out of 9, not 10, about how important this tool will be in Carlsberg in the future. And that's also that's especially me going out, that's a good indicator about we are having this as an important way of working going forward.
And your end users think it's equally important, right? So it's not just IT.
No. That is true.
And true. Maybe just do one more number, which I think is really interesting and something I haven't seen before, and that's the agent use. So as Oliver mentioned, is that over the span of 3 months, we've onboarded 2,500 users, give or take. And we even with these users seeing 1/3 of them answering yes to using agents, and even building, some of them are even building their own agents. So that is quite interesting in terms of, I as a new user get on, I learn the ropes, and I start exploring. So I think in that sense we've succeeded to at least to some extent in creating that curiosity.
Thank you. Both so much. We have a few questions from the people listening that I would like to ask on their behalf now. So let me just pull them up over here. I think one thing that we can dive into is, how do you manage agents when or if they grow from being used by a few people to being more business critical?
Yeah, it's not sitting in my department, but we have a team of people that are actually, and that's again back to the state we are sitting now almost and writing down what should be the governance and how to, which area can we dive into, and how large can we actually scale the different kind of agents in terms of sharing and stuff. But it's still a area which we are at the moment actually just sitting and writing
It's
down.
work in progress.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
There's also a question here that is, can you elaborate a bit on how you at Carlsberg plan to scale and expand the use of agents?
Yeah, good question. At Carlsberg, we are seeing this as again, business almost owned stuff. Of course, we are in IT sitting on sparring and also the enabling and stuff, but we are seeing this as a function owned agenda. I know it's kind of brave to have it as it, but we are seeing really, really great people taking this ownership to their own function, and that's where we are seeing the agents going to be, let's say, higher being built, or maybe flatten out. But in Carlsberg, we are having this as a function-based ownership, so to say.
A question to both of you here is, how do you identify the high-value use cases, so not only prompting, across different functions?
Should I try to describe our process?
Yeah.
You can fill in.
Yeah, exactly. But I think you have some great support for that. Yeah.
So we mentioned the innovation challenge. So there's been that was something that was running when we started introducing Copilot at scale.
Yes.
So we had the innovation challenge with a lot of great input. Basically, people brainstorming themselves and building a small one-pager on it.
Yes.
And then the other part is that we went out a little bit more structured to some of the larger functions with a process to identify what kind of agents would you need. So we've been talking a little bit about it, but I can try and sort of point out the process. So we started with an inspiration session with the involved people. We call them tap room sessions in Carlsberg. Nice. Yes. Going through their workday, what kind of processes, what kind of challenges do they have in their day-to-day work. They also had a little survey. They had to answer some different things in terms of their proficiency. What kind of agents could they believe would be of value? And then we built basically a recommendation for them. So this is the agent that we think can help you with X, Y, Z. We did a small value assessment on the agent. So how much time can you save? How many resources? What is it going to better in terms of your quality? Things like that. Yeah. And then we had a solution architect to validate what is the technical implications of implementing this. So they have almost like a little roadmap for themselves to say, all right, do I need Oliver's help to build it, or do I need, or can I do it myself? Basically,
Okay.
Another question is, how do you differentiate the field of play for M365 Copilot, and what are when do you use Copilot? When do you use other AI?
Yeah, it's a good question. I can talk for myself, but my agenda in my team, or in our team, is to drive the Copilot agenda and those agent thinking as well. Then we have a team separately, which are running the overall AI, let's say, agenda, where that team is also, looking into, Gemini, looking into ChatGPT. We also have some enterprise license for different kind of tool. So it's in our team, and from my perspective, the more human side of it. Of course, we can also have a license for other enterprises which going into this era, but we are looking at the Copilot and agenda in my team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you ever worried that these different agendas might confuse people?
Maybe I'm naive, but no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Of course, there will be some in the beginning around our communication that could have been a little bit about, let's say, crossover, but I think we have found a way to also separate the Copilot community into one community.
Yeah.
So it's about Copilot.
Yeah.
It's not about those larger scaled AI projects.
Yeah.
So I think we have found a way now where people can feel free to also ask those questions that are more low hanging as a, let's say, reference a mail to a chat or something like that. So that's how we did it.
Can I ask? So I think, in my understanding, and this is something we haven't discussed, but as I understand, is that Copilot or Copilot Chat is the foundation for generative AI, and then you have specialist areas that might run into other AIs. Might even not be generative AI. It could be machine learning and other things. But we've also tried to communicate that foundation. So this is what everybody has. But obviously there might be needs that are other things, and I know that the other team is looking into that.
Exactly.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question from the audience. So, how did you move from pilot to organization-wide adoption? Was there a specific moment or initiative that made Copilot stick?
Yeah, I would say that when we went from, let's say, this almost early access idea to try it out and to find all those great child disease that were in the beginning, of course there was a lot of, not a cleanup, but a new way of communicating how the state is right now and how the trust should be built inside again. What was the question again? Sorry, Mia.
It was a specific initiative that really made it stick.
Yeah, I would say that because of the investment we did last summer, that's where we almost say, okay, we need this structured way of measuring because of the proof, of course, up to our senior leaders as well. But it was also about having this again as a human side project, not as an IT project. But that investment almost turned into how we are doing it today.
Yeah, I think so. There was also, we had great discussions before we actually started out the project, where you also mentioned, what can we do to create a plan? What kind of structure do we need? Now we're going from a few hundred licenses to a couple and even more thousand licenses. What are the sort of the key things we need to consider? And that's also something we built together is, what is your agenda? What is it that you want to succeed with?
Exactly.
And then we try to, mold a plan out of that. And I think that's where, that's also something that keeps on living, is that we are in a state that supports organizational wide rollout.
Cool. Okay. Before we wrap up, I have sort of 5 rapid questions for you, Oliver.
Yes.
I'm looking for short, honest answers here.
Thanks.
So let's see.
I'll do
Question number 1 is, what did you most underestimate in the beginning of this project?
Okay, in the project or in the agenda at all?
I think in this project.
In this project.
Yeah.
I would say that the largest underestimation was actually to look into what is actually going to be the key foundation of this project. So I underestimated what we should do in our organization, but the great collaboration with you and the team was actually to create this, let's say, thinking about changing behavior, changing culture, changing all these kind of things, having that groundwork in place.
Yeah.
But I think we are underestimated in the beginning. Yeah.
Which Copilot habit do you personally use the most?
I would say to actually learn from my projects.
Yeah.
Or to learn through let's say, half a year or anything. So having a project with different kind of people, different kind of meetings, Teams chats, mails and stuff, or channel messages, to combine this into almost an executive report, and then just prompt it afterwards to where could I have been even more precise in a way, or so learn from my own project is where I think it's super exciting to learn from how you're working in a person development
So you
way.
use it to almost audit your own work.
Completely, yeah. It is funny sometimes. Yeah.
Do you have a specific agent that you are most proud of?
Yeah, I think on a general level, I'm really proud of those people that are coming up, not having this tech-savvy background, which we maybe haven't talked about, to almost see sparkles in their eyes and happiness around having found a way to create an agent for 3 people that is actually giving so much value. One thing is, of course, the time saved. It's always interesting to look at, but I always look at the excitement in people's minds and almost body, and that's what I'm really excited about. It's not one specific agent. It's those smaller agents, you can call it, but I see them as big, that people have created on their own. I like that.
If you could look into the future, what do you think the biggest shift for Copilot in 2026 will be?
2026?
Yes.
Hopefully, we are still a place where we are honest. And of course, we can definitely talk a lot about, the new features and stuff, but I hope that this will just generate a better workplace. I'm also part of Global Digital Workplace, but I'm just hope that it will create those people have long education, people have long, professionalism in their work. So going even more into their, let's say, main core area to work in, that's hopefully what this can create.
Yeah.
We can talk a lot about it, of functionalities and features, but I think hopefully that is the main core thing for me. I hope.
Okay, last question is, if you could give one piece of advice to someone who's just about to embark on a Copilot project, what would that be?
I've said it once, and I also think I've said it on another way. Be cheeky. Be super cheeky, because it's so funny about this, let's say, way of working. You can enter great people's mind, not entering it through the tool, but you can go to people, learn from the people, learn, how they are working, and then you can almost set a plan with them, which they can own themselves. And that is where I think it's super interesting. So if you like people, I think that's the best way of, just using this as a, almost enter to the doors or to the offices, because you can really learn a lot from people. And that's what I like. I get energy from that,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Both
you.
of you.
Welcome.
I think what I take away from this conversation is Copilot really becomes real in the organization when we have shared effort across and when we focus on the people that sit with it every day. It can be challenging getting Copilot projects started. Maybe you are listening out there and you are at the beginning of one. Maybe you want to start one. Maybe you are well on your way, but you're facing challenges or questions or whatever. We do have our very own expert on board, Andreas. Please don't hesitate to reach out to Andreas if you have any questions, if you need sparring, if you need inspiration. We have lots of it on deck. So don't be shy. His email address appears on the screen right now. And then I think the only thing left to say is, again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mia.
The two of
Thank you,
you.
Mia.
Thank you.
Thank you, fellow mine, for hosting us. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. I hope you all have a lovely Thursday.
Thank you.